Hi guys. So I just wanted to remind you about your steps for completing the square. My little boy got to my steps that I had written out, so they kind of looked messed up, so I'm really sorry. Okay, so the first step is if a is not equal to 1, then you're going to divide. And I don't think you have any of these today, so you don't have to worry about that. And then step number 2, you want your quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx equals c. And if c is not on the right-hand side, you have to subtract or add and get it over there. And then you're going to add b divided by 2 squared to each side of your equation. And then, factor the left into perfect squares. And then square root both sides. Okay, so here we go. The first problems, you're just going to fill out what your value of c would be. And then what you're going to do is you are going to rewrite your equation. So let's do number 1. So what you have to do is you have to take your b value and you're going to divide by 2 and then you're going to square it. So remember the thing about negatives, be careful. If you want to, you can just do this. Negative 16 divided by 2 squared. And then there you go, 64. Okay, and then you're going to rewrite. No, it's fine. Like this. So you figured out what it was and then you rewrote it as a perfect square. Okay. Like number 3, that's not nice, but that's okay. So we're going to do 19 divided by 2 squared. Okay, and I'm just going to type the whole thing in again. 19 divided by 2 squared let's get a decimal. Oh, heavens. There you are. 90.25. The fraction is good to know for like tomorrow's assignment, but we'll talk more about it later. Actually, yeah, tomorrow's. Okay, and the same thing like number 5, so you did 15 divided by 2 squared. So you could just type it in if you wanted to. 15 divided by 2 squared is 225 divided by 4. And then as a decimal, 56.25. Okay, anyways, you get the idea. So let's try number 9. Yeah, number 9. That's a good one. Okay. Oh no, it's falling. Okay. All right, number 9. Okay, so the C, let's go over our steps. Okay, number 1, the A is equal to 1, so you don't have to divide. Our second step is to move the C. So we are going to add 77 to each side. So we have n squared plus 16n equals 77 plus 3 is 80. And now we need to complete our square. So we're going to take our b value and divide by 2 and then square it, which we already did up at the top. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Squared is 64. So we have n squared plus 16n plus 64 equals 80, and we have to keep our equations equal, so we also have to add 64 to this side. I can do this. Okay, then, that's better. Then what we need to do is we need to factor these guys, this left-hand side. So I'm going to use my big X. I want to multiply to get 64, and I want to add to get 16. Well, that's 8 and 8. So remember, you could write it out because I have a leading coefficient of 1. These guys are going to be my factored answer. So it will be n plus 8 times n plus 8. And then 80 and 64 is 144. Always want to double check my answers. And then since there's 2 of these, it's really n plus 8 squared equals 144. So remember, you can jump from here to here if you'd like. On my answer keys, I wrote this on some of them, and some of them I skipped, just kind of depended. Okay, so now we have to get this by itself, so we are going to do our next step. So we factored, and now we're square rooting both sides. Number 5. Okay, so we square root, and now I have n plus a equals positive 12, or n plus a equals negative 12, because we are not sure which would be the correct answer. So we have to have both because we took a square root. Minus 8 minus 8 minus 8 minus 8. N equals 4, and n equals negative 20. All right, let's do more. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go, number 12. So again, we're going to go through our steps. The first step is if a is equal to 1. That's great. If not, then divide, and our a is equal to 1, so that's the leading coefficient on the term that's squared. And then we need to get it in the form ax squared plus bx equals c, so we need to move our c value to the other side by adding 7 to each side. So now you have p squared plus 12p equals 14. And then now we need to add the b divided by 2 squared to each side. So we're going to take our b value, which is 12. We're going to divide by 2 and then square that. So 12 divided by 2 is 6 squared is 36. So I have p squared plus 12p plus 36 equals 14 plus 36, because we have to keep our equation balanced. So if I put something on one side, I have to put that same thing on another. Okay, and then we need to do our step number 4, which is factor the left into a perfect square. So if you want to, if you can see it now, you don't have to big X. If you're still not used to it, then that's fine. So I know just by looking at this is going to be p plus 6 squared equals your 50. If you can't tell, here's what you do. We want to multiply to get to 36, and we want to add to get to 12. So 6 and 6, and you're looking for the same number, always. So it'll be p plus 6 times p plus 6, which is the same thing as p plus 6 squared. Okay, now we square root, and this one's not as pretty, and that's okay. So we have p plus 6 equals the root of 50, and p plus 6 equals negative root 50. Okay, and now I'm going to factor tree my 50 and see if I can reduce. If you don't want to, just type it in the calculator. So 50 is 10 and 5, which is 2 and 5. I have a pair of 5s, so one 5 goes out, the other goes away, and I'm left with a root 2. So I will have to subtract by 6 on each side of this equation. Okay, I'm going to put the 6 first and then my square root. So my answer will be p equals negative 6. And I want this reduced radical. So here's the thing. The square root of 50 is the same thing as 5, because I took one of the 5s out, root, and my leftover is 2. Okay, so these are equivalent. So I'm just going to put that instead of my 50. So this is a positive root 50, so this will be a positive 5 root 2. And then over here I have p equals negative 6, because I subtracted my 6. And then this is a negative 5 root 2. And then in your quiz, what you would do is you would type this. You would type negative 6 plus 5 SQU, meaning square root, and then type 2. So when you have the leading coefficient in front of your radical, that needs to go in front of your SQU. So SQU stands for square root, and it's whatever number is in the square root has to go after, not the number in front, not the leading term, okay? And I put instructions like this on the quiz for today in case that's one of your answers. All right, let's do 2 more together. We're just going to keep going, and then you'll do the rest. Okay, here, again, we're going to follow our steps. So a has to be equal to 1, and a is equal to 1, okay? Next step. We need to get our equation in the form ax squared plus bx equals c. So I need to move this c value over to the opposite side. So now I have a squared plus 20a equals negative 4 minus 92 is negative 96. My next step is to add b divided by 2 squared to each side. So we're going to take our b value and divide by 2 and then square it. So 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 10 squared is 100. So I'm going to add 100 to each side. So I have a squared plus 20a plus 100 equals negative 96 plus 100. Okay, now we're going to factor this into a perfect square, the left-hand side. Okay, so again, if you want to, you could big X. I want to multiply to get to 100 and add to get to 20. Two numbers that are the same, so 10 and 10. That will give me a plus 10 squared, not a squared, a plus 10 squared equals, what, we've got 4. Okay, and then our last step is to square root both sides. So I'm going to square root the left and square root the right. So then I have a plus 10 equals positive 2, and a plus 10 equals negative 2. Minus 10, minus 10, minus 10, minus 10. Get the variable by itself. A equals negative 8, and a equals negative 12. Okay, number 16. Remember, if it goes too fast, you can always rewind and pause. Okay, let's look at our steps. If 1 is equal to a, we're good. Oh, it is. Okay. Or if a is equal to 1. And now we need to get it in a form ax squared plus bx equals c, so we're going to move our c value over. So we're going to do the opposite of minus 54, which is add 54 to each side. So now we have v squared minus 12v equals 64. Our next step is to add b divided by 2 squared to each side. So we're going to take negative 12 and divide it by 2 and square it. Oh no. Okay, negative 2 divided by 12 is negative 6 squared. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. It's always positive, remember, add. Always add, okay? Always positive. Two negatives make a positive. B squared minus 12v plus 36 equals 64 plus 36. When we do to one side, we have to do to the other, so we're adding 36 on each side to make our equations still equal. Okay, then big X factor. I want to multiply to give myself 36, and we're going to add to get negative 12. So negative 6 and negative 6 make a positive 36, and then negative 12 when they are added together. So we have v minus 6 squared equals 64 and 36, make 100. Okay, and then we need to square root both sides. So we're going to square root the left and square root the right. These guys cancel, so I have v minus 6 equals positive 10, and v minus 6 equals negative 10. Solve for your v. V equals 16, and v equals negative 4. So those are your two answers. Alright guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day. Bye.